The emerald dress had been a mistake, but not as big a mistake as what Justine was about to say to the shabby old man stealing desserts at the Beverly Hills party. "Quite the brand to cling to, isn't it?" he said, his South African accent cutting through the champagne-fueled chatter. Justine Musk, successful author, mother of 5, survivor of one of tech's most public divorces, felt her face flush. Who did this rude stranger think he was, calling her out for keeping her ex-husband's famous name? "You don't know anything about me," she shot back, her voice cold. The old man's pale blue-gray eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "I know more than you think." Around them, the party glittered with Hollywood A-listers and Silicon Valley titans. Everyone was performing success, performing happiness, and Justine had just performed cruelty, dismissing an elderly man in an ill-fitting brown suit because he looked out of place among the billionaires. She wouldn't realize until an hour later, after she joined others in mocking his stories and his loneliness, that she'd made a devastating mistake. The old man wasn't a party crasher. He wasn't some confused grandfather who'd wandered into the wrong event. He was Errol Musk, Elon's estranged father, the man Elon called a terrible human being, the family secret that should have stayed hidden, and Justine had just humiliated him in front of half of Los Angeles. By tomorrow, the videos would be everywhere. By tomorrow, her life would never be the same. But tonight, standing in that palazzo ballroom with her emerald dress and her carefully constructed independence, Justine had no idea that one rude comment would unravel everything she thought she knew about family, forgiveness, and the complicated legacy of the Musk name. The invitation had arrived in a cream envelope so thick it felt like fabric. Justine Musk turned it over in her hands, admiring the gold-embossed lettering that spelled out her name in elegant calligraphy. Ms. Justine Musk. Not Justine Wilson, her maiden name, not in guest, just her name solo important. "Open it already," Marina Chen said, perched on the edge of Justine's desk in her home office in Los Angeles. Marina had been Justine's literary agent for 7 years, ever since Blood Angel had caught the attention of a major publisher. She was petite, sharp-featured, and relentlessly pragmatic, the perfect counterbalance to Justine's tendency toward artistic brooding. Justine slid her finger under the wax seal, actual wax, stamped with an ornate P, and pulled out the card inside. Heavy cardstock, probably 110-pound weight, the kind of invitation that cost more per unit than most people's dinner. "Gregory Palmer requests the pleasure of your company at a celebration of his 60th birthday. March 16, 2024. Palazzo di Amore, Beverly Hills. Black tie, 7 p.m. Palazzo di Amore," Justine raised an eyebrow. "Isn't that the estate that was listed for $129 million? It sold for less, but yes, 25 acres in Beverly Hills, 12 bedrooms, theater, wine cellar that holds 10,000 bottles, ballroom for 250 guests." Marina rattled off the specs like a real estate agent. Gregory knows how to throw money around. Justine set the invitation on her desk, next to the manuscript she'd been revising. Her 4th novel, still untitled, about a woman who discovers her late husband had been living multiple lives. Meta, perhaps, given her own history. "Why would Gregory Palmer invite me?" Justine asked. "I've met him exactly once at that literary fundraiser in Santa Monica. We talked for maybe 10 minutes about science fiction versus fantasy." Marina's smile turned calculating. "Because Palmer Entertainment just bought streaming rights to 3 sci-fi fantasy properties, and because your books have a built-in audience, readers who love complex female protagonists in dark supernatural settings. Plus," she paused for effect, "you have name recognition that has nothing to do with your novels." There it was, the thing Justine both benefited from and resented in equal measure. "You mean because I was married to Elon," Justine said flatly. "I mean because your story is compelling," Marina corrected, though they both knew it was the same thing. Woman marries brilliant entrepreneur at 22. They build a life together. Their first son dies tragically. The marriage fractures. She raises 5 boys while he becomes the richest man on earth. She rebuilds herself as an acclaimed author. That's a narrative, Justine, a brand. Justine stood and walked to the window. Outside, Los Angeles sprawled in the March sunshine, all palm trees and Spanish tile roofs in the ever-present haze that never quite qualified as smog anymore but wasn't exactly clear either. Her home in the Hollywood Hills was modest by neighborhood standards. 3,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms, a small pool. She'd bought it with her divorce settlement and her first book advance, determined to create a space that was entirely hers. 16 years since the divorce. 16 years of single motherhood, of juggling book deadlines with parent-teacher conferences, of explaining to her sons why their father couldn't make it to their birthday parties because he was launching rockets or sleeping at the Tesla factory or buying social media companies on a whim. "I kept the name professionally," Justine said, her breath fogging the window slightly, "because changing it would have meant changing all my book covers, my website, my contracts. Not because I wanted to cling to his brand." "I know," Marina said gently. She'd heard this defense before. "But the world doesn't care about the nuance. They see Musk and they pay attention. Gregory Palmer sees Musk and he thinks about built-in publicity for his streaming adaptation. So I'm a marketing tool. You're a talented writer who happens to have an interesting backstory. Use it. God knows Elon has used enough people on his way to the top." That stung because it was true. Justine had watched her ex-husband steamroll through business partners, employees, even family members in his relentless pursuit of his vision. She'd been one of those casualties, albeit a well-compensated one. The divorce settlement had been generous, enough to buy this house to support their 5 sons, to give her the financial freedom to write full-time. But money didn't erase the scars. The miscarriage before Nevada's death at 10 weeks from SIDS, his tiny body going still in her arms. The fertility treatments that had produced their twins, then their triplets. 5 living sons, Griffin, Vivian, who transitioned at 18 and now barely spoke to her father, Kai, Saxon, and Damien. The grief that had calcified between her and Elon until they were strangers sleeping in the same house. The Marie Claire article she'd written in 2010, "I Was a Starter Wife, Inside America's Messiest Divorce," had been therapeutic and disastrous in equal measure. It had made her vulnerable, human, sympathetic. It had also cemented her public identity as Elon Musk's ex-wife, rather than Justine Wilson, author and individual. "Fine," Justine said, turning from the window. "I'll go to Gregory Palmer's ridiculously extravagant birthday party. I'll wear something elegant but not desperate. I'll make small talk about adaptation rights and creative control. And I'll try not to throw champagne on anyone who asks me what Elon is really like." Marina laughed. "That's the spirit. Wear the emerald dress. It makes your eyes pop and your hair looks incredible against that color." The emerald dress. Justine had bought it for last year's Hugo Awards, where her novella had been nominated. She hadn't won. The award went to a brilliant Chinese author whose work deserved the recognition, but she'd felt beautiful in that dress. Powerful, herself. "Emerald it is," Justine agreed. 3 days later, Justine stood in front of her full-length mirror, adjusting the emerald silk dress. It hugged her curves. She was 48 now, her body softer than it had been at 22, marked by 5 pregnancies and 16 years of life. But the dress was forgiving in the right ways. Her auburn hair, which she'd let grow long again, fell in soft waves past her shoulders. Minimal jewelry, small diamond earrings, no necklace. Let the dress speak. Marina picked her up at 6:45 p.m. in an Uber black. Marina herself wore a sleek black pantsuit with red heels, her hair pulled back in a severe bun that made her look like a fashionable assassin. "You look gorgeous," Marina said as Justine slid into the car. "Very, I don't need anyone's validation." That's the goal. The drive to Palazzo di Amare took 40 minutes through Los Angeles traffic. As they climbed into the Beverly Hills hills, the houses grew larger, the gates more imposing, the security more visible. Justine had been to plenty of industry parties over the years, book launches, award ceremonies, fundraisers, but something about tonight felt different, more exclusive, more rarefied. The Palazzo di Amare sat at the end of a long private drive, security checking their names against a list before waving them through. The estate itself was Mediterranean fantasy brought to life. Stone columns, terracotta roofs, fountains that would look at home in Rome or Barcelona. Valet parking attendants in crisp white shirts took keys from arriving Teslas, Bentleys, and the occasional Rolls-Royce. "Deep breaths," Marina murmured as they approached the entrance. "You belong here." But did she? Justine was a working writer, successful by literary standards but not by these standards. Her books sold well. Blood Angel had been on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 weeks, but she lived off advances and royalties, not tech stocks or inherited wealth. She was comfortable, not rich. Successful, not powerful. Inside, the palazzo was even more spectacular. A grand foyer with a chandelier that must have weighed 1,000 pounds. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. Staff circulating with trays of champagne in crystal flutes and hors d'oeuvres that looked too beautiful to eat. Smoked salmon on tiny potato pancakes, beef tartare on crostini, chocolate-covered strawberries the size of golf balls. The guests were exactly who you'd expect at a billionaire tech investor's 60th birthday. Actors Justine vaguely recognized from streaming shows, Silicon Valley executives in expensive casual, or that probably cost more than her monthly mortgage, old money types who carried themselves with the easy confidence of people who'd never worried about money a day in their lives. Justine, Gregory Palmer himself, materialized from the crowd, arms outstretched. He was 60 today, silver-haired and perpetually tanned, wearing a tuxedo that had definitely been custom-made. "So glad you could make it. Marina, you look lethal as always." "Happy birthday, Gregory," Justine said, accepting his double-cheek kiss. He smelled like expensive cologne and cigars. "Thank you for inviting me. Your home is stunning." "Wait until you see the ballroom. We have a string quartet flown in from Vienna, and the dessert bar 37 different options, including a chocolate fountain I'm told is problematic, but I'm 60 and I'll have what I want." He laughed at his own joke. "Listen, I want to talk to you later about Blood Angel. My production team is very excited, but first enjoy the party. Network. We've got everyone here tonight, filmmakers, showrunners, money people. Make connections." He squeezed her shoulder and moved on to the next cluster of guests, the perfect host, making everyone feel special for exactly 30 seconds before moving to the next person. Marina snagged 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter. "See, he wants to talk business. This is good." Justine sipped the champagne. It was excellent, probably something French and expensive, and scanned the room. She recognized a few faces: an actor from a superhero franchise, a director who'd won an Oscar 2 years ago, a venture capitalist who'd been profiled in Wired. The usual Lowe's Angels elite, everyone performing success for each other. And then, near the dessert table, she saw him. An older man, probably late 70s, wearing a brown suit that looked like it had last been in style during the Reagan administration. His gray hair needed a trim, and even from across the room, Justine could see the suit didn't fit properly, too loose in the shoulders, too tight around the middle. He was loading a small plate with chocolate-covered strawberries, his movements oddly furtive, as if he was afraid someone would stop him. "Who is that?" Marina murmured, following Justine's gaze. "No idea," Justine said. "He looks out of place." That was an understatement. Everyone else in the room radiated wealth and confidence, even the creative types who wore jeans and vintage t-shirts. You could tell their casual was expensive casual. But this man looked like someone's confused grandfather who'd wandered into the wrong event. As they watched, he took a strawberry, bit into it, and got chocolate cream on his fingers. Instead of looking for a napkin, he licked his fingers unself-consciously, then, when he thought no one was watching, slipped several petty fours into his jacket pocket. Marina stifled a laugh. "Oh my God, is he stealing the desserts?" "Apparently." Justine felt a mixture of amusement and second-hand embarrassment. Who was this man? How had he gotten past security? Was he a relative of Gregory's, some eccentric uncle who had to be invited out of obligation? The old man looked up suddenly and caught Justine staring. Their eyes met across the room. His were a pale blue-gray, sharp and assessing despite his disheveled appearance. And there was something in his gaze, something knowing, almost amused, that made Justine's stomach flip uncomfortably. Then he smiled, not friendly but challenging, and started walking directly toward her. "Oh no," Marina said. "He's coming over here." "Maybe he'll just walk past us," Justine said hopefully. He didn't walk past them. He stopped directly in front of Justine, close enough that she could smell mothballs and peppermint. Up close, his face was weathered, lined with deep creases around his eyes and mouth. But those eyes, they were disturbingly alert, almost predatory in their intelligence. "You're Justine Wilson," he said, not a question, a statement. Justine blinked, startled. "It's Justine Musk, actually. I kept the name professionally." His smile widened, showing yellowed teeth. "Of course you did. Quite the brand to cling to, isn't it? The comment hit Justine like a slap. She felt her face flush, heat creeping up her neck. Around them, the party continued, laughter, clinking glasses, the soft strains of the Viennese string quartet playing something classical and forgettable. But in this small bubble of space, tension crackled. "Excuse me," Justine said, her voice dropping to that dangerous, quiet tone her sons knew meant they'd crossed a line. The old man seemed unbothered by her reaction. He popped another chocolate-covered strawberry into his mouth, chewing slowly while studying her face. A small fleck of chocolate remained at the corner of his lip. Justine felt simultaneously angry and disgusted. "I said," he repeated, his accent distinctly South African. She could hear it now in the way he pronounced his vowels. "That Musk is quite the brand to cling to. Professionally, of course." His emphasis on that last word dripped with sarcasm. Marina stepped forward, her protective instincts activated. "I'm sorry, but who are you exactly?" The old man finally shifted his gaze from Justine to Marina, looking her up and down with barely concealed dismissiveness. "Just an observer, someone who finds these displays of wealth rather fascinating. All these people, all this money, and yet everyone seems rather miserable underneath, don't you think?" "That's a bold observation from someone stealing petty fours," Marina said sharply. A flash of something, anger, amusement, crossed the man's face. "I wasn't stealing, I was sampling. There's a difference. Besides, at these events, half the food goes to waste anyway. Criminal, really, when you think about global hunger statistics." Justine found her voice again. "You're lecturing us about global hunger while crashing an exclusive party and insulting people you don't know." "Crashing?" The old man raised his eyebrows. "That's a rather presumptuous assumption. And as for insulting people I don't know," he leaned in slightly, and Justine caught a whiff of whiskey underneath the peppermint. "I know more than you think, Ms. Wilson, or Ms. Musk, whichever identity you're wearing today." The words were deliberately cruel, cutting straight to the insecurity Justine had spent 16 years trying to overcome. She'd written 4 novels. She'd raised 5 boys largely on her own while their father built empires. She'd survived the death of her infant son, a devastating divorce, and the public scrutiny that came with being connected to one of the world's most famous men. She'd earned the right to her own identity. And this stranger, this rude old man in his ill-fitting suit, was reducing her to a footnote in someone else's story. "You have no idea what you're talking about," Justine said, her voice trembling slightly with suppressed anger. "You don't know anything about me or my life." The old man's expression shifted, becoming almost contemplative. Those pale eyes studied her with unsettling intensity, as if he could see through her expensive dress and careful makeup to something raw and vulnerable underneath. "I know more than you'd think," he said quietly. "I know that some people never recover from their mistakes. They simply move on to new ones, building monuments to their egos while the bodies pile up behind them." The sudden darkness of his words shocked Justine into silence. This wasn't just rudeness anymore. This was something deeper, more personal, a bitterness that went beyond casual party conversation. "What bodies?" Marina demanded. "What the hell are you talking about?" But the old man had already turned away from them, his attention caught by something across the room. "If you'll excuse me, I see someone I need to speak with. Enjoy your evening, ladies. Try not to choke on all this excess." He walked away, his gait slightly unsteady, whether from age or alcohol, Justine couldn't tell. She watched him approach a group of men in dark suits clustered near the terrace doors. They looked like aerospace engineers or defense contractors, the kind of people who worked on classified projects and spoke in acronyms. "What the actual fuck was that?" Marina said, her voice low and furious. "Should we tell security? Get him thrown out?" Justine shook her head slowly, still watching the old man. "No, let it go." "Let it go, Justine, he was incredibly rude. He basically called you a—" "I know what he called me," Justine interrupted. "But making a scene won't help. It'll just draw attention and ruin the evening." What she didn't say was that something about the encounter had shaken her more deeply than mere rudeness warranted. There had been a familiarity in the man's tone, a knowledge that suggested this wasn't random cruelty from a stranger. He'd used her maiden name first, then corrected himself. He'd known about her keeping the Musk name professionally. Those were specific details, not general assumptions. Marina was still fuming. I'm going to find Gregory and ask who that man is. This is supposed to be an exclusive event, not open season for every bitter old crank with a grudge. Don't, Justine said, catching Marina's arm. Please, I just want to forget it happened. But even as she said it, Justine's eyes tracked the old man across the room. He was gesticulating animatedly to the aerospace engineers, who were listening with expressions that ranged from polite interest to barely concealed impatience. One of them checked his watch. Another glanced around as if looking for an escape route. Fine, Marina said reluctantly, but I'm getting us more champagne. You look like you need it. While Marina headed to the bar, Justine moved toward the terrace doors, needing air. The ballroom was beautiful but stifling. Too many people, too much perfume and cologne, too much performance of success and happiness. She slipped outside onto a stone terrace that overlooked the estate's elaborate gardens. The March evening was cool, the sky that particular shade of purple-orange that Lowe's angels did so well at sunset. Below, the city spread out in a carpet of lights, stretching all the way to the dark void of the Pacific Ocean. From up here, Lowe's angels looked almost beautiful, the smog and traffic and inequality invisible in the distance. Quite a view, isn't it? Justine spun around. A woman about her age stood near one of the stone planters, smoking a cigarette with practiced elegance. She was black, wearing a stunning red dress that probably cost more than Justine's car, her natural hair styled in an elaborate updo decorated with small gold pins. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you, the woman said, exhaling smoke away from Justine. I'm Rebecca Chang. Well, Rebecca Lai Chang, but that's too much of a mouthful for Hollywood. Justine Musk, Justine said automatically, then winced at her own response. Why did she always lead with that name? Why not just Justine? I know, Rebecca said with a warm smile. I'm with Stream Flicks. We're in talks with Palmer Entertainment about some acquisitions. Your Blood Angel series is on our radar. Excellent work, by the way. My daughter is obsessed with the character of Serafina. Thank you, Justine said, genuinely pleased. Compliments on her actual work always meant more than comments about her famous ex-husband. How old is your daughter? 16. Moody, brilliant, and convinced she's going to be a neurosurgeon or maybe a vampire. She hasn't decided yet. Rebecca took another drag of her cigarette. These parties are exhausting, aren't they? Everyone performing, no one actually talking. Exactly, Justine said, relieved to find someone who felt the same way. I've had about a dozen conversations tonight and can't remember a single one. Except maybe one. Rebecca's eyes sparkled with mischief. I saw you talking to that strange old man earlier, the one in the brown suit that looks like it survived the Cold War. Justine's stomach tightened. You saw that? Hard to miss. He cornered me earlier too, going on about emeralds of all things. Emerald mines in Zambia, emerald investments versus Bitcoin, on and on. Then he just pocketed my business card without asking. Rude as hell. Emeralds? Justine repeated, something tickling at the back of her memory. Yeah, he claimed he'd owned part of an emerald mine in the 1980s, kept saying it was a better investment than modern cryptocurrency. Very weird energy, very back in my day grandfather vibes. Rebecca stubbed out her cigarette in a stone ashtray. I asked Gregory's assistant about him. Apparently he's someone's father. The assistant wouldn't say whose, and Gregory felt obligated to invite him. But between you and me, I think the old guy's a few cards short of a deck. Justine's heart had started beating faster. Emerald Mine, Zambia, 1980s. Those details were sparking something in her memory, fragments of conversations from years ago, things Elon had mentioned in passing during their marriage and then quickly changed the subject about. Did you catch his name? Justine asked, trying to keep her voice casual. No, he never introduced himself properly, just launched into his emerald lecture. Why? Just curious, Justine said. He was rude to me too, called me out for keeping my married name. Rebecca rolled her eyes. Men always have opinions about women's choices, don't they? Especially old men who think their generation knew better. She checked her phone. I should get back inside. My boss wants to corner Gregory about a deal. But it was nice talking to you, Justine. Real talk, not party talk. You too, Justine said. Alone again on the terrace, Justine pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking slightly from the champagne, she told herself, or the cool evening air, not from the growing suspicion that was forming in her mind. She typed carefully into Google, Errol Musk Emerald Mine Zambia. The results loaded slowly on the estate's spotty Wi-Fi. When they finally appeared, Justine's breath caught in her throat. The truth about Elon Musk's father and the Zambian emerald mine. Business Insider, 2018. Errol Musk, the complicated relationship between Elon and his estranged father. Rolling Stone, 2022. Inside the Musk family's fractured dynamics. How Elon's father became Silicon Valley's most controversial figure. Vanity Fair, 2023. Justine's phone buzzed with a text from her son Vivian. Mom, heard you're at Gregory Palmer's party. Dad's father is supposed to be there. Just FYI, don't engage if you see him. It'll get back to Dad and he'll be upset. The phone nearly slipped from Justine's fingers. She caught it, her mind reeling. Dad's father, Errol Musk. The man Elon never talked about, the father he'd publicly called a terrible human being in interviews. Source of childhood trauma that Elon had alluded to but never fully explained, even to Justine during their 8 years of marriage. The old man in the brown suit. The man who called her out for keeping the Musk name. The man who'd said he knew more than she thought. Oh God, Justine's stomach lurched. She thought back through the encounter, every cutting word, every dismissive gesture. The way she'd looked at him, this shabby old man stealing desserts. The judgment in her eyes, the contempt. And he'd known exactly who she was. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Vivian. Mom, did you see my message? Please tell me you didn't already meet him. Justine couldn't respond. She was too busy scrolling frantically through articles on her phone, her expensive emerald dress suddenly feeling too tight, too warm. Errol Musk, 77, has had a complicated relationship with his sons Elon and Kimball. The retired South African electromechanical engineer made his fortune partly from a share in an emerald mine near Lake Tanganyika in Zambia during the 1980s, which he purchased for approximately £40,000. The emerald mine, Rebecca's conversation. It hadn't been the ramblings of a confused old man, it had been truth. Elon Musk has publicly distanced himself from his father, stating in a 2017 Rolling Stone interview, "He was such a terrible human being. You have no idea. My dad will have a carefully thought-out plan of evil. He will plan evil." When pressed for details, Musk declined to elaborate. Justine remembered that interview. She'd read it when it came out, feeling a complicated mixture of sympathy for Elon and curiosity about what had happened. But Elon had never shared details, not with her during their marriage and certainly not after. The Musk family dysfunction was a black box, something Elon kept locked away even from those closest to him. In 2018, Errol Musk shocked the world by revealing he'd fathered a child with his stepdaughter, Jana Bezwidenhout, whom he'd known since she was 4 years old. The child, born in 2017, made headlines globally and further strained Errol's relationship with his sons. Justine felt sick. She'd heard about this scandal. It had been impossible to avoid in the tech press, but she'd filed it away as someone else's family drama, not hers. But those were her son's grandfather and stepaunt. That was her children's family, whether they acknowledged the relationship or not. More texts from Vivian. Mom, seriously, answer me. This is important. Justine typed back with shaking fingers. I met him. I didn't know who he was. I was rude to him. The response came immediately. How rude? Very rude. I mocked him for stealing desserts and wearing a bad suit. Oh shit. Yeah, Mom, you need to leave now before someone posts about this. You know how these parties are, everyone's got their phones out. If someone caught you being rude to Errol and posts it, Dad will lose his mind. Justine's mind raced. Vivian was right. In 2024, every party like this was a potential viral moment. Someone could have filmed the encounter on their phone. Someone could be posting it to X or Instagram or TikTok right now, with captions like, Elon Musk's ex-wife mocks his elderly father, or Justine Musk caught being rude to Errol Musk at billionaire party. The public relations nightmare would be spectacular, and it would hurt Elon despite their divorce, despite everything. It would hurt her sons most of all, who already navigated the complicated terrain of having the world's most controversial billionaire as their father. But worse than the potential scandal was the crushing weight of her own behavior. She judged a man based purely on his appearance. She'd been dismissive, contemptuous, cruel. And he'd known exactly who she was while she'd had no idea who he was. She'd become exactly the type of person she despised. From inside the party, Justine heard laughter, loud, performative laughter, the kind that usually accompanied someone telling an embarrassing story about someone else. Her pulse quickened. She pocketed her phone and walked back inside, trying to look casual despite her racing heart. The ballroom seemed even more crowded now, the champagne flowing more freely. Near the bar, she spotted a cluster of people she recognized from earlier, the entertainment lawyers, the producers, Marina among them. And they were laughing. As Justine approached, she caught fragments of conversation. Went on for 20 minutes about electromagnetic propulsion. I couldn't get away. Kept name-dropping his son, saying the boy was changing the world. Completely delusional. Classic case of a nobody father trying to ride his successful kid's coattails. Justine's heart sank as she realized they were talking about Errol, mocking him, and she'd been part of this earlier, hadn't she? She'd judged him first, set the tone. Now it had spread through the party like gossip always did at these events. Marina saw her approaching and waved her over. "There you are. We were just talking about your friend from earlier." "He's not my friend," Justine said weakly. A producer named David Rothstein, mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of man who always talked too loud, grinned at her. "Marina told us about your encounter. Sounds like he was a real piece of work. Did he really tell you that you were clinging to your ex-husband's brand?" The other people in the group tittered. Someone said, "The nerve." Justine wanted to defend Errol, to tell them who he really was, to stop this casual cruelty, but she couldn't. Not without revealing how badly she'd misjudged the situation, not without making everything worse. "He was confused," Justine said carefully. "Maybe we should just drop it." But David was on a roll now, enjoying his audience. He cornered me too, going on about South African mining operations like it was 1985. Completely incoherent. Every other sentence was about his son who's changing the world. You know the type, the dad at the country club who won't shut up about his son, the doctor. The group laughed again. Rebecca Chang appeared at the edge of the circle holding a martini. "Don't forget the emeralds. He tried to convince me that emeralds were a better investment than Bitcoin. Then," she paused for effect, "he just took my business card without asking, like I'd offered it to him." "That's so awkward," someone said. "That's so sad," another person corrected. "He's clearly here alone, probably crashed the party, read about it in a society column and showed up hoping to network." Marina jumped in. "Should Gregory have security remove him? This is supposed to be exclusive." "Too awkward now," David said. "Better to just ignore him. He'll get the hint eventually and slink away." But Justine had stopped listening. Her eyes had found Errol across the room, standing near a window, still talking to the same group of aerospace engineers. But they'd moved slightly away from him, their body language closed off, checking phones, glancing toward exits. Universal signs of people trying to escape a conversation. Errol seemed oblivious, or perhaps he saw it and didn't care. He kept talking, gesturing with his hands, his face animated with whatever technical point he was making. And Justine could see, even from this distance, the loneliness in his posture, the desperate need to be heard, to be relevant, to matter. She'd done this. Not alone, but she'd started it. Her judgment, her contempt, had given others permission to mock him too. "Justine," Marina touched her arm. "You okay? You look pale." "I need some air," Justine said, "and water. Just give me a minute." She fled to the bathroom, her heels clicking on marble floors. Inside, the bathroom was as over-the-top as the rest of the palazzo. Gold fixtures, floor-to-ceiling mirrors, fresh flowers in crystal vases. Justine locked herself in a stall and sat on the closed toilet lid, her head in her hands. Her phone buzzed. More texts from Vivian. "Mom, I'm serious. Leave now. Dad just texted me asking if Errol approached you. Someone must have told him. This is going to blow up." Another text from Griffin this time. "Mom, what's going on? Dad is freaking out." Then Marina, "Where are you? Gregory wants to talk about the adaptation." Justine ignored them all. She sat in the bathroom stall of a billionaire's palazzo in her expensive emerald dress and confronted the uncomfortable truth that she'd failed spectacularly at being the person she wanted to be. And somewhere outside, Errol Musk, Elon's father, her children's grandfather, a man with his own complicated history of mistakes and cruelty, was being mocked by people who saw him as nothing more than a punchline, just as she had less than an hour ago. Justine stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her makeup was still perfect. The expensive foundation hadn't creased, the mascara hadn't smudged, but her eyes looked haunted. She turned on the cold water and wet her hands, pressing them against her wrists the way her therapist had taught her years ago when panic attacks threatened. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Her phone continued buzzing in her clutch. She ignored it and opened her browser instead, typing with trembling fingers. Errol Musk-Elon relationship. The articles loaded faster this time, and Justine read with growing horror. The relationship between Elon Musk and his father Errol has been strained for decades. In a 2017 Rolling Stone interview, Elon became visibly emotional when discussing his father, stating, "He was such a terrible human being. You have no idea about how bad. Almost every evil thing you could possibly think of, he has done." When the interviewer pressed for specifics, Musk refused to elaborate, saying only, "It's so terrible you can't believe it." Justine's hands shook harder. She'd known Elon had issues with his father, everyone knew that, but she'd never understood the depth of it. During their marriage, Elon had mentioned Errol exactly 3 times that she could remember. Once at their wedding in Dornoch, Scotland, when Errol had given a toast and Elon's jaw had tightened so much she thought he might crack a tooth. Once when Errol called asking for money and Elon had agreed to pay for a property in South Africa, but then disappeared into his office for 3 hours afterward, not speaking. And once when their son Griffin asked about his grandfather and Elon had simply said, "You have a grandfather on your mother's side. That's enough." She kept reading. Errol Musk, now 77, is a South African electromechanical engineer, pilot, sailor, and property developer. He made significant wealth in the 1980s, partly from a share in an emerald mine near Lake Tanganyika in Zambia, which he purchased for approximately £40,000. The mine produced enough to, as Errol later claimed, allow him to walk around with emeralds in his pockets. Rebecca's story about the Emerald Lecture suddenly made horrible sense. It hadn't been the confused ramblings of a man living in the past. It had been his actual history. The Musk family dynamics fractured during Elon and Kimball's childhood in Pretoria, South Africa. After Errol and May Musk divorced when Elon was 9, the boys chose to live with their father, a decision Elon later called not a good idea. The specifics of what occurred during those years remain private, with Elon declining to provide details beyond calling his childhood not happy and his father's behavior psychological torture. Justine thought about her own sons, Griffin, Vivian, Kai, Saxon, and Damien. She thought about what would drive them to describe their childhood in such terms. What level of cruelty or neglect or manipulation would embed itself so deeply that decades later, as adults, they still couldn't speak about it without visible pain? In 2018, Errol Musk made international headlines when he confirmed that he'd fathered a child with his stepdaughter, Jana Bezuidenhout. Jana's mother, Hyde, had been married to Errol in the 1990s, meaning Errol had helped raise Jana from age 4. The revelation shocked the Musk family, with Elon reportedly cutting off contact entirely. Errol later stated in interviews that he and Jana had a second child together in 2019, further straining family relationships. The bathroom suddenly felt too small, too hot. Justine understood now why Vivian had been so panicked. This wasn't just about Elon's father being at a party. This was about a man whose actions had caused genuine trauma, whose choices had been so disturbing that his own children had publicly denounced him. And she'd mocked him for wearing a bad suit and stealing petty fours. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. A text from Elon himself, something that almost never happened outside of coordinated discussions about their sons. "Justine, I heard Errol approached you tonight. I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd be there. Please don't engage with him for the boys' sake." The "for the boys' sake" felt like a punch to the gut. Even in his brief text, Elon was thinking about their sons, protecting them from grandfather they'd never really known. She typed back, "I didn't know who he was. I'm so sorry." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Then what do you mean you didn't know? What happened?" Justine couldn't type the truth, not in a text, not while standing in a billionaire's bathroom with her whole body shaking. She typed, "Can we talk tomorrow? I need to handle something first." "Justine, what happened tomorrow? I promise." She shoved her phone back in her clutch and forced herself to look in the mirror again. Her reflection looked like a stranger, a woman in an expensive dress at an exclusive party, playing a role she'd never quite mastered. The successful author, the independent woman, the person who'd moved beyond being Elon Musk's ex-wife. But underneath, she was still just Justine Wilson from Peterborough, Ontario. The girl who'd fallen in love with an ambitious engineering student at Queen's University when she was 20 years old, who thought love could conquer anything, even grief, even incompatibility, even the crushing weight of being married to someone whose ambition outpaced his capacity for emotional connection. She judged Errol Musk based on his appearance and behavior, never considering the complexity beneath. Wasn't that exactly what the world did to her? Reduced her to Elon's ex-wife, without seeing the novels she'd written, the children she'd raised, the person she'd fought to become. The hypocrisy made her sick. A knock on the bathroom door. "Justine, you in there?" Marina's voice concerned. Justine unlocked the stall and emerged. Marina stood by the sinks looking worried. "You've been gone 20 minutes. Gregory's asking for you. Are you sick? Should we leave?" "I need to tell you something," Justine said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, hollow, defeated. "That man, the one in the brown suit, the one we all mocked. The party crasher." "He's not a party crasher." Justine took a shaky breath. "He's Errol Musk, Elon's father." Marina's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror, and finally panic. Oh my God, Justine. Are you sure?" "I'm sure. My kids texted me. Elon texted me it's him." "But he looked," Marina trailed off, unable to find words. "I know how he looked," Justine said bitterly. "We all saw how he looked, and we judged him for it. We mocked him, and I started it." Marina leaned against the sink, her usual composure cracking. "This is bad. This is really bad. Do you know how many people were in that group at the bar? At least 8. And David Rothstein is a notorious gossip. He probably already told a dozen more people. By tomorrow morning, this could be on page 6. I know. Elon Musk's ex-wife mocks his elderly father at Beverly Hills party. Jesus, Justine, the optics are terrible." "I know," Justine's voice rose, echoing off the marble walls. "Don't you think I know? I've been standing here for 20 minutes reading about their relationship, about what Errol did to his stepdaughter, about how Elon called him a terrible human being. I understand exactly how bad this is." Marina was quiet for a moment, thinking. When she spoke again, her voice was calmer, strategic. "Okay, here's what we do. We leave quietly, no goodbyes. I'll text Gregory that you got food poisoning or something. We never speak about this publicly. If anyone asks, you didn't know who he was, you had a brief, polite conversation, that's it." "That's a lie." "It's damage control," Marina corrected. "Look, Errol Musk is not a sympathetic figure. The man fathered children with his stepdaughter. He said terrible things in interviews. If you apologize publicly, it just draws more attention to the whole situation. Better to let it fade away." But Justine was shaking her head. "You didn't see his face when I walked away. You didn't see how lonely he looked." "Justine, please tell me you're not feeling sorry for him." "I don't know what I'm feeling." Justine pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to hold back tears that would ruin her makeup. "Yes, he's done terrible things, but he's also a 77-year-old man who came to a party and got mocked by a room full of people who think wealth equals worth, including me, especially me." "He mocked you first," Marina pointed out. "He called you out for keeping the Musk name." "And he was right," Justine dropped her hands. "That's what makes it worse. I do benefit from that name. I kept it for brand recognition. I tell myself it's just practical, just business, but part of me likes being connected to something bigger than myself. And he saw right through me." Marina pulled out her phone. "I'm calling our car. We need to leave before this gets any worse." "No," Justine straightened, smoothing down her dress. "I need to talk to him." "Are you insane? That's literally the worst thing you could do right now." "Maybe, but I can't leave like this. I can't go home and face my sons knowing I treated their grandfather, she stumbled over the word, like garbage. Whatever else he is, whatever he's done, I was cruel to him. I need to apologize. Justine, think about what you're saying. This man caused serious trauma to your ex-husband. He's done genuinely disturbing things. You don't owe him an apology. Maybe not, Justine agreed. But I owe myself one. I need to be the person I'm trying to teach my sons to be. The person who owns their mistakes, who treats people with basic human dignity even when it's uncomfortable. Marina stared at her for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. You're going to do this no matter what I say, aren't you? Yes. Fine, but I'm coming with you. And if this blows up, remember that I strongly advised against it. Noted. They walked back into the party together. The ballroom seemed louder now, the laughter more shrill, the performance of happiness more exhausting. Justine scanned the room for Errol's brown suit. She found him near the terrace doors, exactly where she'd seen him earlier. But now he was alone, the aerospace engineers having finally escaped. He stood with his hands in his pockets, those pockets probably still containing stolen Petit Fours, looking out at the darkening Los Angeles skyline. From behind, he looked small. Vulnerable, just an old man at a party where he didn't quite belong. Justine's resolve wavered. What was she going to say? Sorry I judged you for stealing desserts, even though you fathered children with your stepdaughter. How did you apologize for casual cruelty to someone who'd committed much worse cruelties themselves? But before she could figure it out, someone else approached their little group. Rebecca Chang, the Streamflix executive, holding a fresh martini and wearing a conspiratorial smile. Ladies, she said, her voice slightly slurred from alcohol. I have to tell you the latest about our friend over there. She gestured toward Errol with her martini glass, gin sloshing dangerously close to the rim. Rebecca, Justine started, but Rebecca was already talking. So David found out who he is. Apparently he's Errol Musk, you know, Elon's father, the one who, she lowered her voice dramatically, had babies with his own stepdaughter. Can you imagine? And he has the nerve to show up here acting like he's somebody. Marina's hand clamped down on Justine's arm, a warning. But Justine couldn't look away from Rebecca's face, couldn't stop hearing the casual cruelty in her words. The way she'd reduced a complicated, damaged human being to a punchline. The way Justine herself had just an hour ago. He's still someone's father, Justine heard herself say. Someone's grandfather. Rebecca blinked, surprised. Well, yeah, but did you hear what I said about the stepdaughter? I heard, and it's terrible, but that doesn't mean we should stand around mocking him at a party. Justine, are you defending him? Rebecca looked genuinely confused. After he was so rude to you earlier. Other people were starting to notice their conversation. David Rothstein drifted over, sensing drama. A few other guests turned their attention toward the small group. Justine felt Marina's grip tighten on her arm, a silent plea to stop talking. But something had broken open inside her. Maybe the champagne, maybe the guilt, maybe just 16 years of performing for people who saw her as an accessory to someone else's story. I'm not defending what he's done, Justine said clearly. I'm saying we should be better than this. Better than standing around at a party worth more than most people's houses, laughing at an old man for being lonely. Rebecca's expression cooled. That's a very high horse you're on, considering you were laughing along with us 20 minutes ago. You're right, Justine said. I was, and I was wrong, that's what I'm trying to say. Jesus, David muttered. Someone's having a crisis of conscience. How very method acting of you, Justine. Very, I'm more enlightened than you. The mockery in his tone made Justine's face burn, but she'd started this and she couldn't back down now. Not when Errol was standing 50 feet away, probably able to hear every word if he chose to listen. Think whatever you want, Justine said. I'm going to apologize to him. Anyone who wants to judge me for that, go ahead. She pulled away from Marina and started walking toward the terrace doors. Behind her, she heard Rebecca say, "Is she serious right now?" And someone else, maybe David, laugh and respond. She's probably angling for some kind of reality show about dysfunctional families. Marina caught up to her at the terrace entrance. Justine, please, let me call Elon first. This affects him too. But Justine was already stepping outside into the cool March evening, and Errol Musk, hearing footsteps, turned around. Their eyes met. In his expression, Justine saw something that made her chest ache, resignation mixed with weary curiosity. The look of someone who'd been disappointed so many times that surprise was no longer possible. "Back for round two?" he asked. His voice was tired, stripped of the earlier sarcasm. "Come to tell me I'm not welcome at Gregory's party." That message was delivered quite effectively by your friends inside. "No," Justine said. "I came to apologize." Errol's eyebrows rose, genuine surprise flickering across his weathered face. "Apologize? That's unexpected." He studied her for a long moment, those pale blue-gray eyes, so unsettlingly similar to Elon's, searching her face for the catch. "What changed in the last hour? Did someone tell you who I am?" Justine felt her face flush. "Yes." "Ah," a bitter smile twisted his lips. "So you're apologizing because I'm Elon's father, not because you were rude to a stranger. How very strategic of you." "That's not," Justine started, then stopped. Was that true? Would she be standing here if he were just some random old man? The honesty of his accusation stung because she couldn't be certain of her own motives. "You're right. Partly right anyway. I should have been kinder regardless of who you were. But yes, knowing who you are makes it worse." "Makes it worse for you, you mean?" Errol corrected. He leaned against the terrace railing, the lights of Lowe's angels spreading below him like a constellation map. "Bad optics. Elon Musk's ex-wife mocking his elderly father. Might affect your book deals, your adaptation negotiations. Can't have that." Marina, who'd followed Justine outside, made a small sound of protest. "That's unfair. Justine is trying to do the right thing." "Is she?" Errol's gaze never left Justine's face. "Or is she trying to avoid a PR disaster? There's a difference." "Maybe both," Justine admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. "Maybe I'm doing this partly for selfish reasons, but also because I was genuinely cruel to you, and I don't want to be the kind of person who treats people that way." Errol was quiet for a moment, considering. The string quartet inside struck up something new, Mozart maybe, or Vivaldi. Justine could never tell them apart. The party sounds drifted out through the open doors. Laughter, conversations, the clink of expensive crystal. "Do you know why I came tonight?" Errol asked abruptly. "Gregory Palmer invited me to consult on a battery technology project. Lithium-ion configurations for cold weather applications. I'm an electromechanical engineer, was anyway before I became Elon Musk's terrible father as a full-time occupation." His voice was laced with bitterness. "I've worked on mining operations, property development, engineering projects across 3 continents, but none of that matters anymore. Now I'm just a cautionary tale." "I didn't know," Justine began. "Of course you didn't," Errol interrupted. "No one does. Do you know what people see when they look at me? They see the emerald mine, which was real, by the way, purchased in 1986 for £40,000, sold my share in the 90s for a decent profit. They see the stepdaughter situation," his voice caught slightly, "which was catastrophically stupid and I will regret until the day I die. They see an old man in an outdated suit who doesn't fit in with Silicon Valley billionaires." He turned to face them fully. "But I'm still a person. I still have thoughts, knowledge, experiences. I consulted on the Johannesburg city power grid in the 80s. I designed properties that won architectural awards. I taught both my sons to think like engineers, to question everything, to never accept 'that's how it's always been done' as an answer." "And you also hurt them," Justine said quietly. "Elon won't even say your name most of the time. When we were married, he only mentioned you 3 times in 8 years. Whatever you did." "I know what I did." Errol's voice rose, then he visibly controlled himself, glancing back at the party to see if anyone was watching. Several people were actually, faces turning toward the terrace with naked curiosity. He lowered his voice. "I know exactly what I did. I was critical when I should have been supportive, harsh when I should have been kind. I told Elon he'd never amount to anything because his ideas were too ambitious, too unrealistic. I mocked him for reading science fiction, for dreaming about Mars, for thinking he could compete with established industries." He laughed, a harsh, pained sound. "And then he went out and proved me catastrophically wrong, built multiple billion-dollar companies, revolutionized electric cars and private spaceflight, became the richest man on Earth. Everything I told him was impossible he made real. And I..." He trailed off, staring at his hands. I became the villain in his origin story. Justine felt something crack inside her chest. This was pain she recognized. The pain of realizing you'd failed someone you loved, of watching them succeed without you, of knowing you'd lost your chance to be part of something beautiful. Marina shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Musk," Justine's trying to apologize. "You don't need to." "Don't I?" Errol looked at her directly. "She came out here wanting honesty. She came out here feeling guilty. The least I can do is be honest about why her cruelty stung so much." He turned back to Justine. "You, of all people, should understand complicated family dynamics. You were married to my son. You know what it's like to love someone whose ambition consumes everything else. You know what it's like to be left behind." The words hit too close. Justine felt tears prick her eyes. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? Elon left you behind, didn't he? Not for another woman. That would be simpler. He left you behind for Tesla, for SpaceX, for his vision of the future. You became a widow to his ambition." "Stop it," Justine said, but her voice shook. "Why? Because the truth hurts. You said you came to apologize. Part of apology is listening to how you hurt someone. You looked at me tonight and saw failure. Saw someone pathetic and desperate, clinging to past glories, stealing petty fours because he couldn't afford the catering." Errol pulled the stolen petty fours from his pocket, holding them up. "These aren't even good. Too much fondant, not enough cake. But I took them because taking something, anything, made me feel less invisible for a moment." Justine couldn't speak. The raw honesty was overwhelming, stripping away all the defensive layers she'd built up over 16 years of public scrutiny. "I came to this party," Errol continued, pocketing the petty fours again, "because Gregory Palmer made me feel useful. Someone wanted my engineering knowledge. Someone cared about what I knew, not who I was related to. And then I walked into this room full of people who'd already decided who I was based on tabloid stories and Elon's interviews, including you." "I'm sorry," Justine whispered. "I'm so sorry." "For which part? For judging me, for mocking me with your friends, for looking at me like I was something unpleasant you'd stepped in." His voice had gone quiet again, which somehow hurt more than anger. "Or are you sorry that I'm Elon's father and therefore your rudeness reflects badly on you?" "All of it," Justine said. "All of it. I'm sorry for all of it." Errol searched her face. "Do you know what the worst part of tonight was? Not your initial rudeness. I'm used to that. Not even your friends inside doing impressions of my shaky old man voice. The worst part was that you should have known better." "What do you mean?" "You've been where I am," Errol said. "Maybe not exactly the same, but close enough. You've been judged, reduced to a role, treated as less than human because of your connection to Elon. The world decided you were the ex-wife, the starter wife, the one who couldn't keep up. They didn't see your books, your intelligence, your grief over Nevada. They saw a woman who'd failed to hold onto a billionaire." Justine felt like she'd been slapped, because he was right. The Marie Claire article she'd written had been her attempt to reclaim her narrative, but it had also cemented her identity as Elon's ex-wife in the public consciousness. Every interview, every book launch, every public appearance came with questions about him. What's Elon really like? Do you regret the divorce? Does he see his sons? "I spent 16 years fighting to be seen as myself," Justine said, her voice breaking. "Writing books, raising 5 boys, building a life that was mine. And tonight I did to you exactly what the world does to me. I reduced you to a single story, weird old man at a party, without seeing anything else." "Now you understand," Errol said. They stood in silence. Inside, someone clinked a glass. Gregory Palmer probably making a birthday toast. Laughter and applause followed. Out here on the terrace, the three of them existed in a pocket of uncomfortable truth. Marina spoke first, her voice unusually gentle. "Mr. Musk, what Justine did was wrong. What those people inside are saying about you is wrong, but..." She hesitated. "I have to ask, why do you keep putting yourself in these situations? You must know that parties like this, in Elon's world, will be hostile territory." "Where else should I go?" Errol asked simply. "I'm 77 years old. My sons won't speak to me. I have Jana and our children, but..." He shook his head. "It's complicated. I wanted to feel relevant again. Important. Gregory asking for my engineering expertise made me feel like I still had something to offer the world. and instead you got mocked by a room full of tech industry people who worship your son, Justine said. Worship or fear him, Errol corrected. Elon inspires both, always has, even as a child. He had this intensity, this focus. When he decided he wanted something, he became almost superhuman in pursuit of it. Grades, programming, physics, whatever he turned his attention to, he mastered. There was pride in his voice, unmistakable despite everything else. I should have nurtured that. Encouraged it. Instead, I tried to tear it down because it threatened me. Threatened you how? Justine asked. Errol's laugh was hollow. My brilliant son made me feel inadequate. I'd had some success, the engineering work, the emerald mine share, property developments, but nothing compared to his potential. I could see it even when he was young. This boy was going to do something extraordinary, and instead of being happy about that, I felt small. So I made him feel small too. Classic wounded ego, textbook terrible parenting. Justine thought about her own sons. Griffin with his quiet intelligence, working on AI projects at UC Berkeley. Vivian, brilliant and angry, transitioning and cutting ties with her father over his public comments about transgender people. Kai with his mathematical mind, Saxon with his dry humor, Damien with his sensitivity. She'd made mistakes with all of them, been too absent sometimes, too controlling others, but at least she'd tried to let them be themselves. Have you ever told Elon this? Justine asked. Actually explained why you were the way you were. I've tried, Errol said. Letters, emails, messages through Kimball and Tosca, he doesn't respond. After the situation with Jana, he cut me off completely. And I don't blame him, he struggled for words. There's no defending it. It was wrong on every level. I was lonely after my second divorce. Jana was in a vulnerable place after her own divorce, and I made a choice that destroyed what little family connection I had left. 2 children, Marina said quietly. You have 2 children with her. A son born in 2017, a daughter in 2019. Yes. Errol's voice was flat, defensive. The world has already judged me for it. Elon has judged me for it. I don't need more condemnation from strangers. I'm not condemning, Marina said, though her expression suggested otherwise. I'm trying to understand. There's nothing to understand. I made catastrophically bad choices. I hurt people I loved. I became estranged from my own children because of my own selfishness. Errol turned back to the city view. And now I'm a 77-year-old man standing at a party where everyone wishes I wasn't here, including probably the host, talking to my son's ex-wife about my failures. This is what my life has become. The hopelessness in his voice was suffocating. Justine wanted to say something comforting, something that would ease the weight of all that regret, but what comfort was there? He was right. He'd made choices that had destroyed his relationships, and no amount of apologizing would undo that damage. I can't fix what happened between you and Elon, Justine said finally. That's between you two, but I can tell you that what I did tonight, judging you, mocking you, that wasn't okay. Whatever else is true, you deserved basic human dignity, and I failed to give you that. Why do you care? Errol asked. Really? You could have just avoided me for the rest of the evening, gone home, forgotten this happened. Why come out here and put yourself through this uncomfortable conversation? Justine thought about her answer carefully. Because I have 5 sons who are watching how I behave, who learn from my actions more than my words. And I don't want them growing up thinking it's okay to treat people cruelly just because those people have made mistakes, even terrible mistakes. Noble, Errol said, but it's more than that, isn't it? What do you mean? You're doing this for yourself too, Errol said. Trying to prove you're better than your worst moment. That's not a criticism. I understand that impulse. I've spent years trying to prove I'm more than my worst choices. He smiled sadly. Hasn't worked yet, but I keep trying. A commotion from inside made all 3 of them turn. David Rothstein had his phone out, pointing it toward the terrace. Justine's stomach dropped. How long had he been filming? What had he captured? Oh no, Marina breathed. No. Let him film, Errol said wearily. Another video of Errol Musk being pathetic for the internet to mock. What's one more? But Justine was already moving, walking back inside with purpose. Marina called after her, Justine, don't. But Justine ignored her. She walked straight up to David, who lowered his phone with a guilty expression. David, were you filming us? Just documenting the party, he said, too casually. Gregory loves content for his socials. Bullshit, Justine said loudly enough that several nearby conversations stopped. You were filming me talking to Errol Musk so you could post it and make us both look bad. I don't know what you're talking about, David said, but his face was flushed. Show me your phone. That's private property. Show me your phone or I'll tell everyone here about the sexual harassment settlement your company paid out last year. Justine had no idea if such a settlement existed, but the flash of panic in David's eyes told her she'd hit close to home with something. You're insane, David said, but he was backing away. Rebecca appeared at Justine's elbow. What's going on? David was filming my private conversation, Justine said. A conversation with someone's elderly father, for social media content. So what? Someone else chimed in. It's a party, people film parties. There's a difference between filming parties and filming people's painful family conversations, Justine said. She was aware she was making a scene, aware that everyone was staring, aware that this was probably making everything worse. But something had snapped inside her, all the years of performing, of being watched, of having her life turned into content for other people's entertainment. We've all been standing around tonight mocking a 77-year-old man, making fun of his clothes, his stories, his loneliness, because it made us feel superior, because cruelty is easier than empathy. Justine, maybe we should, Marina tried, but Justine kept going. I started it. I looked at Errol Musk and decided he wasn't worth my time because he looked old and shabby. I was rude to him, and then I watched all of you take that permission and run with it, making him into a joke. And you know what? We're all terrible people for it. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. Somebody's drunk. I'm not drunk, Justine said. I'm ashamed there's a difference. Gregory Palmer pushed through the crowd, his host's smile replaced with concern. Justine, is everything all right? Should we step outside and talk? Everything's not all right, Justine said. You invited Errol Musk here for his engineering knowledge, and your guests have spent the evening treating him like entertainment, like his pain and loneliness are funny. Gregory's expression shifted to something harder. Mr. Musk is a guest, and he's been treated like a guest. If he's uncomfortable, he's welcome to leave. That's not, Justine started, but a voice from behind her cut through. She's right. Everyone turned. Errol stood in the terrace doorway, Marina hovering anxiously behind him. In the ballroom's bright lights, he looked even older, more worn, but his voice was steady. I'm uncomfortable, Errol said. I have been since I arrived, but Ms. Musk, Justine is correct. You all treated me like I was invisible, or worse, like I was a curiosity, the sad old man who used to be somebody. He looked around the room, meeting eyes that quickly looked away. I came here because Gregory invited me to consult on a project. I stayed because I hoped I might feel relevant again. Instead, I felt exactly how my son probably wants me to feel, like a mistake that should have stayed hidden. The silence was excruciating. Justine wanted to disappear, wanted to rewind the last 2 hours and make different choices. But she'd started this confrontation, and now they were all standing in it. Gregory cleared his throat. Errol, I apologize if any of my guests made you uncomfortable. That wasn't the intention. Wasn't it? Errol asked. Come now, Gregory. You invited me knowing full well who I am, what I've done, and how Elon's associates would react. This was always going to be uncomfortable. Perhaps that was part of the appeal, a bit of drama for your 60th birthday party. Gregory's face reddened, but he didn't deny it. Errol turned to Justine. Thank you for trying. It won't change anything. I'll still be the terrible father, you'll still be the ex-wife, but at least someone tried to see me as human tonight. He looked at the crowd one last time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. The desserts really are quite good, even if you have to steal them to feel like you're taking something of value from these gatherings. He walked toward the exit, his posture straight despite his age. The crowd parted silently, everyone avoiding eye contact. When he reached the door, he paused and looked back at Justine. Your sons, he said. Griffin, Vivian, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, I know their names. I follow their achievements from afar, Vivian's courage in transitioning, Griffin's AI work, the triplets' academic excellence. I'm proud of them even though I have no right to be. Tell them. He stopped, seeming to reconsider. No. Don't tell them anything. They're better off not knowing their grandfather at all. Then he was gone. The ballroom erupted in whispered conversations, everyone processing what had just happened. Marina grabbed Justine's arm. "We need to leave, now, before this gets any worse." But Justine was already running toward the exit, her heels clicking frantically on marble floors. She burst through the front door just as Errol was climbing into an old Toyota Camry, not the car she'd expected a man with emerald mine money to drive. "Wait," she called. Errol paused, one hand on the car door. "What now, Justine? More apologies, more guilt?" "No," Justine said, breathing hard from her run. Tell me how to make this right. With you and Elon, tell me how to help." Errol's expression softened slightly. "You can't. Some bridges burn so thoroughly there's nothing left to rebuild with. Elon and I, that's one of those bridges." He climbed into his car. "But thank you for asking. That's more than most people would do." "I really am sorry," Justine said. "I know," Errol replied. "That's what makes it sadder." He drove away, taillights disappearing down the long driveway. Justine stood in the cool March evening, her emerald dress suddenly feeling ridiculous, her whole night feeling like a catastrophic failure of basic human decency. Behind her, the party continued. Inside, people would be talking about what just happened, filming it, tweeting it, turning it into content. By tomorrow, it would be a story. Elon Musk's ex-wife defends his estranged father at Beverly Hills party. But the only thing Justine could think about was Errol's face in that moment before he drove away. The resignation of someone who'd long ago stopped expecting kindness from the world. And how much it had looked like her own reflection in dark moments, when the weight of being Elon Musk's ex-wife felt like more than she could carry. The Uber ride back to Justine's house was silent. Marina sat scrolling through her phone, her face illuminated by the blue glow, occasionally muttering, "Oh God," or "This is bad" under her breath. Justine stared out the window at Lowe's Angels sliding past, boutiques and restaurants in Beverly Hills giving way to the residential neighborhoods of the Hollywood Hills, each house a fortress of wealth and secrets. Her own phone had been buzzing non-stop since they left the party. She turned it face down in her lap, unable to deal with whatever storm was brewing online. But she could feel the weight of it, the notifications piling up like accusatory messages she'd eventually have to face. "It's already on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it now," Marina finally said. 3 different videos. David's wasn't even the worst one. Someone got footage of your whole speech about us all being terrible people. "Are we trending?" Justine asked, her voice flat. "Justine Musk is. Also Errol Musk and Muskie family." Marina's fingers moved rapidly across her screen. "The comments are mixed. Some people are calling you brave for defending him. Others are pointing out what he did with his stepdaughter and saying you're defending a predator. And then there's a whole subset calling this a publicity stunt for your book adaptation." Of course they are. There's also a lot of speculation about what you and Errol talked about on the terrace. People are doing lip-reading analysis, which is insane because the video quality isn't even good enough for that. Marina sighed. "Elon hasn't tweeted about it yet, but give it time." Justine's stomach churned. Elon's silence was somehow worse than if he'd immediately responded. It meant he was angry, the kind of cold, calculating angry that came before surgical precision strikes. She'd seen it during their divorce, the way he could dismantle an argument with ruthless logic, finding every weakness and exploiting it. "What do I do?" Justine asked. "Honestly, nothing. Don't tweet, don't release a statement, don't talk to any press. Let it blow over. Something else will be trending by tomorrow. Elon will probably tweet something controversial about AI or politics, and everyone will forget about tonight." But Justine knew that wasn't true. Her sons wouldn't forget. Elon wouldn't forget. And she wouldn't forget the look on Errol's face as he drove away in his ancient Camry, a man so wealthy from engineering work and emerald mines that he could afford better but choosing not to, or perhaps unable to navigate the simple act of buying a new car in a life that had become so isolated and strange. The car pulled up to her house at 10:47 p.m. The lights were on, her oldest sons were home from Berkeley for spring break, staying with her for the week, which meant they'd definitely seen the videos by now. "Do you want me to come in?" Marina asked. "Moral support." "No," Justine said. "I need to face this alone, but thank you for everything tonight. Even though I told you not to confront him. Especially because of that." Justine managed a weak smile. You were right, I made it worse, but at least I made it worse honestly. Marina squeezed her hand. Call me tomorrow, we'll figure out damage control. Inside, Justine kicked off her heels. Her feet were screaming, and found Griffin and Kai sitting in the living room with their laptops open. Both looked up when she entered, their expressions carefully neutral in that way that meant they were actually very upset but trying to be mature about it. Mom, Griffin said, we need to talk. Justine set down her clutch and collapsed onto the couch. I know, I saw the videos too. Dad called, Kai said. He was the quieter of the twins, more like Elon in temperament, analytical, precise with his words. He's pretty angry, not at you exactly, just at the situation. What did he say? Griffin and Kai exchanged glances. Finally, Griffin spoke. He said you put yourself in an impossible situation by engaging with Errol. That now everyone's going to ask you about their relationship, about family history, about things that aren't your story to tell. He's right, Justine said. I should have just ignored him, walked away, let the evening end without incident. But you didn't, Kai said. Why? How could she explain it to her 17-year-old sons? How could she make them understand the complex guilt and recognition that had driven her to that terrace, to that confrontation? I was rude to your grandfather, Justine said simply. I judged him based on how he looked, and I was cruel. When I found out who he was, I felt like I needed to apologize. He's not our grandfather, Griffin said sharply. We've never met him. Dad made it clear a long time ago that Errol isn't part of our family. But he is, whether you've met him or not. He's your biological grandfather. And tonight I saw, Justine paused, choosing her words carefully. I saw a lonely old man who everyone treated like garbage, including me, and I couldn't live with that. Kai leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Mom, did you see the article in Business Insider from 2018 about Errol and his stepdaughter Jana? I did. Then you know he's not just some lonely old man. He's someone who did something really disturbing. Dad barely talks about him, but when he does, you can see how much it hurt him. Growing up with Errol, whatever happened, it damaged Dad. Justine thought about her ex-husband, about the man she'd loved and lost. Elon's childhood was something he'd kept locked away, revealing only fragments. The time he'd been hospitalized after being pushed downstairs and beaten by bullies at school while Errol told him he needed to toughen up. The constant criticism, the impossibly high standards, the way nothing he accomplished was ever quite good enough for his father. I know Errol hurt your father, Justine said. And I know what he did with Jana was wrong on every possible level. But tonight wasn't about defending those choices. It was about me owning my own cruelty. Your own cruelty, Griffin repeated. Mom, you're one of the kindest people I know. You've raised us to be thoughtful, to consider other people's feelings, to not judge. You made one sharp comment to a stranger at a party. That's not cruelty. Wasn't it? Justine met her son's eyes. I looked at an elderly man and decided he wasn't worth my time because of how he dressed. I participated in a group of people mocking him. I made him feel invisible and unwelcome. If that's not cruelty, what is? The front door opened and Vivian walked in, still wearing her work uniform from the coffee shop where she'd been picking up shifts. She dyed her hair a vibrant purple recently, a small rebellion against everything, or maybe just self-expression. She looked tired, and when she saw Justine, her expression hardened. So it's true, Vivian said. You actually defended Errol Musk at a party. It's more complicated than that, Justine started. Is it? Because Dad just texted me saying you made a scene defending his abusive father, and now there are videos all over X showing you giving some speech about empathy and human dignity. Vivian's voice was sharp, angry in a way that reminded Justine painfully of Elon. Do you know how that looks? Do you know what Dad went through with Errol? I know some of it. You don't know anything, Vivian interrupted. None of us do. Dad won't talk about it. But it was bad enough that he cut Errol out of his life completely. Bad enough that he specifically told us we should never try to contact him. And now you're feeling sorry for him, thinking he needs defending. I wasn't defending what he did, Justine said, her voice rising despite her exhaustion. I was apologizing for my own behavior. By making a public scene that's now all over social media attached to our family name, Vivian shot back. Great job, Mom, really thinking that through. Vivian, Griffin said, that's not fair. Isn't it? We already get enough attention for being Elon Musk's kids. We already have to deal with people's opinions about Dad, whether he's a genius or a monster or both. Now we have to deal with Mom going viral for defending Errol, the guy who, she stopped, her voice breaking slightly. The guy who hurt Dad so badly he still can't talk about it. Justine stood up, her emerald dress rustling. She was still wearing the damn dress, still playing the part of someone who belonged at billionaire parties when all she wanted was to change into pajamas and pretend tonight hadn't happened. You're right, Justine said quietly. I wasn't thinking about how this would affect all of you. I was thinking about myself, my guilt, my need to apologize, my need to prove I'm a good person. And in doing that, I made everything worse. I'm sorry. Vivian's anger seemed to deflate slightly. I don't understand why you cared so much, why you couldn't just let it go. Because, Justine struggled to find words that would make sense to her 18-year-old daughter. Because I saw myself in him. Not the terrible things he's done. I'm not comparing myself to that. But the loneliness, the feeling of being defined by one relationship, one role. The way everyone looks at you and only sees Elon Musk's ex-wife or Elon Musk's father instead of seeing you. That's different, Kai said. You're a successful author. You've built your own identity. Have I? Justine asked. Really? Or am I still performing, still trying to prove I'm more than the woman who couldn't make it work with a genius? Tonight at that party, people knew who I was because of my last name. Gregory Palmer wanted to talk to me about adaptations partly because Musk gets attention. Even my own career is built partially on that connection. So what? Griffin said. Use the advantages you have. That's smart, not shameful. Maybe, Justine agreed. But tonight, standing there looking at Errol, this old man who everyone dismissed, I realized I'd become exactly what I hate. Someone who judges based on appearance, on social status, on whether someone is useful or valuable to them. And I couldn't live with that. Vivian sat down heavily in the armchair. I'm still angry at you. That's fair. But I kind of get it. Vivian pulled her purple hair into a ponytail. When I came out as trans, when I changed my name and cut contact with Dad, people treated me like I was making a scene for attention, like I was being dramatic. They didn't see the years of pain, the dysphoria, the feeling of being trapped in expectations that didn't fit. They just saw Elon Musk's kid having a public meltdown. I remember, Justine said softly. So I guess I understand wanting to see someone's humanity even when they've done terrible things, even when it's easier to write them off. Vivian's voice was softer now. I just wish you'd thought about how it would affect the rest of us. I should have, Justine said, and I'm sorry to all of you. Her phone rang, Elon's name flashing on the screen. All four of them stared at it like it was a bomb about to detonate. You should answer, Griffin said. He'll just keep calling. Justine picked up the phone and walked into her office, closing the door behind her. She took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Elon. What the hell were you thinking? His voice was tight, controlled, the voice he used when he was furious but trying not to show it. I specifically texted you not to engage with him. I didn't get your text until after, Justine said. I didn't know who he was when we first spoke. That's not an excuse. You made a scene. You defended him publicly. Do you know how many reporters have already reached out to me for comment? How many people are tweeting about this? I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it, Elon interrupted. Sorry doesn't make the videos disappear. Sorry doesn't stop people from dragging up every terrible thing about my childhood and my father and making it trending news again. I know, Justine said. You're right, I handled it badly. But Elon, he was being mocked by everyone at that party. People were doing impressions of him, laughing at him. So what? Elon's voice was cold. He's an adult. He chose to go to that party. He knows who he is, what he's done. If people mock him, that's a consequence of his actions. Is that really how you feel? That he deserves to be humiliated? There was a long pause. When Elon spoke again, his voice was different, less controlled, more raw. I don't know how I feel about him. I spent years in therapy trying to figure out how I feel about him. and I decided that the healthiest thing was to have no contact, no relationship. He's not part of my life or my children's lives. And then you," his voice cracked slightly, "you decided to make him your problem." "I wasn't trying to. You were trying to be the good person, the empathetic one. I get it. That's who you are, Justine. You see someone hurting and you want to help. But some people are hurting because of their own choices. Some people don't deserve your empathy." "Everyone deserves basic human dignity," Justine said. "God, you sound like a greeting card." But there was less bite in his words now. "Look, I'm not calling to fight with you. I'm calling because this affects our sons. They're already dealing with being Elon Musk's kids. Now they have to deal with questions about their grandfather." I explained to them. "I know, Griffin texted me, but explaining isn't enough. You need to release a statement, something brief." I had a brief conversation with Mr. Musk at a party. My comments were about treating all individuals with respect. I have no further comment on private family matters. Something like that. "That sounds like it was written by your PR team." "It was. I texted them right after I saw the videos." A pause. "Justine, I know you were trying to do the right thing, but my father, you don't know what he's capable of. He'll use this. Your empathy, your public defense, he'll twist it into something. He'll try to use you to get back into my life or the boys' lives." "He specifically said they were better off not knowing him," Justine said. "He said that tonight. Tomorrow he might say something different. That's who he is, unpredictable, manipulative. He once told me I'd never amount to anything, then years later claimed he'd always believed in me. He rewrites history to suit whatever narrative makes him feel better about himself." Justine thought about Errol's face on the terrace, the raw honesty in his words. "I think he was being genuine tonight, about his regrets, about the pain he caused." Maybe he was. Maybe he's convinced himself he actually feels bad about what he did. Elon's voice was tired now. But that doesn't change the damage. That doesn't undo years of emotional abuse. And it doesn't excuse what he did with Jana. "I know, I'm not excusing any of it." "Then what were you doing tonight, Justine? Really?" The question hung in the air. Justine looked around her office, walls lined with her published books, photos of her sons at various ages, awards and certificates from her writing career. Evidence of the life she'd built after their divorce. Evidence that she was more than just Elon Musk's ex-wife. But was she? Or was she still performing, still trying to prove something? "I was trying to be a good person," Justine said finally, "and maybe trying to prove to myself that I'm not defined by my connection to you, that I can make my own choices, even difficult ones, without worrying about how it reflects on the Musk name." Elon was quiet for a moment. "We've been divorced for 16 years. You don't need to prove anything to anyone." "Don't I? I kept your name, Elon. Every time I publish a book, every time I do an interview, I'm trading on that connection. And tonight I saw someone else trapped by that same name, your father, and I guess I felt connected to his pain." "That's fucked up," Elon said, but there was almost a laugh in his voice. "You felt connected to my father's pain, the man who made my childhood miserable." "I know how it sounds, but in that moment he was just a lonely old man who everyone treated like garbage, and I'd been part of that. I needed to apologize, not to him, really, but to myself, to prove I'm still capable of basic human decency even when it's uncomfortable." "And instead you created an international incident," Elon said dryly. "Very on brand for both of us, honestly. We never could do anything quietly." Despite everything, Justine smiled. "Remember when we tried to have a private divorce? And you wrote that Marie Claire article." Elon's tone was lighter now, almost fond. "Yeah, privacy has never been our strong suit." "I'm sorry," Justine said again. "For real this time. Not just for tonight, but for all the times our drama has affected the boys. They didn't ask to be part of this circus." "No, they didn't, but they're handling it better than we did at their age." A pause. "Griffin's doing good work at Berkeley. His AI ethics paper was actually quite insightful." "You read it?" "Of course I read it. He's my son." There was something defensive in Elon's voice, the eternal struggle of being simultaneously absent and present in his children's lives. I read everything they publish, every award they win. I might not be at every soccer game or school play, but I pay attention. I know you do, Justine said gently. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, did he seem okay, my father? The question surprised Justine. Physically, you mean? Emotionally, mentally, was he? Elon struggled with the words. Was he deteriorating? I know he's 77. I know age catches up with everyone eventually. He seemed sharp, Justine said carefully. Bitter, definitely. Lonely. But cognitively, he was fine. Still talking about engineering projects, electromagnetic propulsion, battery configurations. He always loved engineering, Elon said softly. That's probably the only thing he ever loved more than his own ego. He used to take me to construction sites, show me how buildings were designed, how electrical systems worked. Before everything went wrong, he trailed off. Before he became the person who hurt you, Justine finished. Yeah, Elon's voice was barely audible. Before that. Justine felt tears prick her eyes. This was the Elon she'd fallen in love with, the one who could be vulnerable, who carried deep wounds he couldn't quite articulate. The man who'd held her hand at Nevada's funeral, both of them shattered, before ambition and grief and incompatibility had driven them apart. Do you ever think about reaching out to him? Justine asked. Not forgiving him necessarily, just talking. Every day, Elon admitted. And every day I decide not to, because talking to him means opening wounds that took years to partially heal. It means explaining to our sons why their grandfather is suddenly in their lives. It means risking him hurting them the way he hurt me. A pause. I can't do that. I can't risk them. They're not children anymore, Elon. They can make their own choices about relationships. Can they? Griffin and Kai are 17. Vivian's 18 but still figuring out her identity. Saxon and Damien are 15. They're still kids, Justine, still vulnerable to manipulation. And Errol is very good at manipulation when he wants to be. Justine wanted to argue but couldn't, because maybe Elon was right. Maybe protecting their sons from a relationship with Errol was the correct choice, even if it felt harsh. What do you want me to do? Justine asked. About tonight, about the videos, about all of it. Release the statement my PR team drafted. Let it blow over. Don't engage with any more questions about my father. And he hesitated. And if he contacts you, which he might after tonight, don't respond. Don't let him use you as a backdoor into my life. Elon. Please, Justine, for once just trust me on this. He's my father. I know him better than anyone. And I'm telling you that engaging with him will only lead to more pain. Okay, Justine said. I'll do what you're asking, but Elon, I need you to understand something. What I did tonight, apologizing to him, that wasn't about you or your relationship with him. That was about me and my own values. I can't live with being cruel to people, even people who have done terrible things. I know, Elon said. That's what makes you a better person than me, but it's also what makes you vulnerable to being used. They said their goodbyes, awkward but not hostile. After hanging up, Justine sat in her office for a long time, staring at her phone. She pulled up X and searched for Elon Musk. The videos were everywhere, viewed millions of times already. Her speech about treating people with dignity. Her confrontation with David about filming. Errol's exit, his final words about knowing his grandchildren's names but having no right to be proud of them. The comments were, as Marina had said, mixed. Elon Musk defending Errol. Girl read the room. That man is problematic. Actually respect her for standing up for basic human decency, even when it's uncomfortable. That takes courage. This is clearly a publicity stunt for her book adaptation, using family drama to stay relevant. Elon's ex-wife defending his abusive father. The plot thickens. People are so quick to judge. Maybe Errol deserves some empathy too. Ike man, family stuff is complicated. No, Errol Musk had children with his stepdaughter. There's no both sides to that. Justine is wrong here. Justine closed the app. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone knew exactly what she should have done, how she should have acted. Nobody knew the full context, the weight of being connected to the Musk name, the complexity of trying to maintain your own identity while raising 5 children who carried that name, the crushing guilt of cruelty even toward people who'd been cruel themselves. There was a soft knock on her office door. "Mom," Griffin's voice. "Can we come in?" All three of her older kids entered: Griffin, Kai, and Vivian. They arranged themselves around her office, an intervention of sorts. "We've been talking," Griffin said, "and we think you need to know something." "What?" Vivian spoke up. "We don't blame you for what happened tonight. We were upset earlier because it was a shock and because Dad was upset. But we talked about it and," she glanced at her brothers, "we think you were right about apologizing, about not joining in the mockery." "Really?" Justine was surprised. "Really," Kai confirmed. "We don't know Errol, we probably never will. And maybe that's for the best. Dad's instincts are usually right about these things. But you taught us that everyone deserves basic respect. You taught us not to judge people by appearance or status. Tonight you lived those values even when it was hard, even when it made things messy." Griffin added, "The internet is going to have opinions no matter what you do. They always do with our family. But we know who you are. We know you're a good person who made a difficult choice, and we're proud of you for that." Justine felt tears spill down her cheeks. "I thought I disappointed you all." "You did," Vivian said with brutal honesty, "for about an hour. But then we remembered that you're human. You make mistakes. You also try to fix them, which is more than most people do. And you raised us to think critically, not just accept what everyone else says." She smiled slightly. "Can't be mad at you for modeling that behavior." Justine stood and pulled her three children into a hug, awkward because they were all adults now, tall and angular and beautiful. But still her babies, still the people who mattered most in her world. "I love you all so much," she whispered. "We know, Mom," Griffin said. "We love you too, even when you go viral for the wrong reasons." They talked for another hour, about the party, about Errol, about the complicated legacy of being Musks. Eventually, the exhaustion caught up with all of them and her children headed to bed. Justine changed out of her emerald dress, she'd probably never wear it again, and into pajamas. Before turning off her light, she checked her phone one last time. A new text from an unknown number. "Thank you for tonight. You didn't have to be kind to me, but you were. That meant more than you know. Please don't let Elon punish you for showing basic human decency. You're a better person than any of us deserve. E.M." Errol had her number. Of course he did, probably got it from Gregory Palmer or found it online somewhere. Elon's warning echoed in her head. "If he contacts you, don't respond. Don't let him use you as a backdoor into my life." Justine stared at the message for a long time. Then, without responding, she blocked the number and deleted the text. Some bridges, as Errol himself had said, burned so thoroughly there's nothing left to rebuild with. Her job wasn't to fix the Musk family's fractured relationships. Her job was to raise her sons with empathy and integrity, to build her own career and identity, to live according to her values even when it was uncomfortable. Tonight she'd failed spectacularly at managing optics. But she'd succeeded at being the person she wanted to be, someone who could apologize for cruelty, who could see humanity in complicated people, who could hold two truths simultaneously. Errol Musk had done terrible things, and he was still a human being who deserved basic dignity. The internet could debate the ethics of her choices. Elon could be angry about the mess she'd created. Marina could worry about damage control. But Justine knew, as she finally turned off her light and let sleep claim her, that she'd done the right thing. The messy, complicated, uncomfortable right thing. And tomorrow she'd wake up and face whatever consequences came from tonight's choices. Because that's what adults did. That's what she taught her sons to do. She just hoped they'd learned that lesson better than she had. Justine woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the sound of her phone vibrating continuously on the nightstand. For a blissful 3 seconds, she forgot about the previous night. Then memory crashed back: the party, Errol, the confrontation, the videos, and her stomach clenched. She reached for her phone. 6:47 a.m., 43 missed calls, over 200 text messages. Her email inbox showed 500+ unread messages. The notifications were still coming in, a relentless digital avalanche. The first text was from Marina, sent at 6:15 a.m. "Don't look at the news. Call me when you're awake." Which of course meant Justine immediately opened her news app. Elon Musk's ex-wife defends controversial father at Beverly Hills party, TMZ. Justine Musk's emotional plea for empathy toward Errol Musk goes viral. People magazine. Inside the complicated Musk family drama, why Justine's defense of Errol is dividing the internet. Vanity Fair. Elon Musk reportedly furious after ex-wife's public interaction with estranged father. Page 6. Justine scrolled through the articles, each one dissecting last night from a different angle. Some praised her for standing up for human dignity. Others condemned her for defending a man who'd had children with his stepdaughter. A few suggested this was all orchestrated publicity for her upcoming book adaptation. The comment sections were worse. Thousands of people who'd never met her, never lived her life, felt entitled to judge every choice she'd made last night. People who reduced complex human situations to hot takes and moral absolutes. She was about to close the app when one headline caught her eye. Errol Musk breaks silence. My former daughter-in-law showed me more kindness than my own sons. Daily Mail. Oh no, Justine whispered. No, no, no. She clicked the article with trembling fingers. Errol Musk, 77, spoke exclusively to the Daily Mail about his encounter with Justine Musk at Gregory Palmer's 60th birthday celebration. She was the only person all evening who treated me like a human being, the South African engineer said. Everyone else saw me as Elon's embarrassing father, the family secret that should have stayed hidden. But Justine apologized for her initial rudeness and actually listened to me. She has more character than most people in that room combined. Justine's hands shook as she continued reading. When asked about his relationship with his famous son, Errol became emotional. Elon hasn't spoken to me in over a year. I understand why. I've made terrible mistakes, but I'm still his father. I still care about him and my grandchildren, even if they want nothing to do with me. Justine at least acknowledged that I exist, that I have feelings. That's more than I usually get. Errol also addressed the viral videos of Justine's speech at the party. She was right. People were mocking me all evening, making fun of my clothes, my stories, treating me like I was senile or crazy. Justine called them out on it, even though it made her look bad. That takes courage. The article continued, but Justine couldn't read more. Errol had done exactly what Elon warned he would, used her empathy as a weapon, as leverage to get attention, to make himself look sympathetic. Her phone rang. Marina. You saw it, Marina said immediately. I saw it. Errol gave interviews to 5 different outlets overnight. TMZ, Daily Mail, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, and the New York Post. He's positioning himself as the victim, with you as the only person brave enough to defend him. I wasn't defending him, Justine said, her voice rising. I was apologizing for being rude. That's completely different. The internet doesn't care about nuance. Neither does Errol, apparently. He's milking this for everything it's worth. Marina's typing was audible in the background. Elon's team released a statement 30 minutes ago. Want to hear it? Do I have a choice? Marina read. Mr. Musk maintains his long-standing position that he has no relationship with his father and prefers to keep private family matters private. He asks that the media respect his family's privacy during this time. Any statements made by Errol Musk do not represent Elon Musk or his family's views. That's it, Justine asked. That's all he said. That's the official statement. But he also tweeted, hold on, pulling it up, family is complicated. Some relationships are healthier at a distance. Would appreciate if people stop trying to make this into something it's not. Justine closed her eyes. Elon's tweet would only fuel more speculation, more articles, more opinions from strangers who knew nothing about their lives. There's more, Marina said carefully. Vivian tweeted too. Oh God, what did she say? My grandfather is not the victim here. My father is. Stop trying to rewrite history to make abusers sympathetic. My mom made a mistake last night, but she's not the villain in this story. Justine felt sick. Her 18-year-old daughter was defending her on social media, exposing herself to the internet's cruelty, all because Justine had made a scene at a party. What do I do? Justine asked. Marina, seriously, what do I do? You follow the plan we discussed. Release the statement Elon's team drafted. Do not engage further. Do not respond to Errol's interviews. Let this news cycle burn itself out. But he's twisting everything. He's making it sound like I was championing him, like we had this deep, meaningful connection. I know, and the only way to stop it from getting worse is to not feed it. Every response, every clarification, every attempt to set the record straight just keeps the story alive. You have to starve it of oxygen. Justine knew Marina was right, but it felt wrong to stay silent while Errol manipulated the narrative, while her children got dragged into defending her choices. Has Gregory Palmer said anything? Justine asked. He told Variety that it was an unfortunate situation and that all guests at his party were invited and welcome, basically trying to stay neutral and not get blamed for any of this. Marina sighed. The good news is your book adaptation is still moving forward. If anything, the publicity has made the studio more interested. They're talking about built-in audience engagement and social media momentum. So my family drama is good for business, Justine said bitterly. Welcome to 2024. Everything is content, everyone is a brand, and privacy is a quaint concept from the 20th century. After hanging up with Marina, Justine forced herself to get up and shower. The hot water helped slightly, washing away the previous night's makeup and hairspray, if not the guilt and confusion. She dressed in comfortable clothes, leggings and an oversized sweater, and went downstairs. Griffin, Kai, and Vivian were in the kitchen, having clearly been awake for hours. Laptops and phones covered the table, a tactical command center for managing crisis. "Mom," Griffin said when she appeared. "We've been monitoring the situation." "You shouldn't have to do that," Justine said. "You should be enjoying your spring break, not managing my mistakes." "Too late for that," Vivian said, but not unkindly. "We're already in it. Might as well help control the damage." Kai poured Justine a cup of coffee, strong and black, the way she needed it. "Errol's interviews are the problem. He's making it sound like you're his ally against Dad, which is obviously not true, but people are running with it." "I saw," Justine said. "I should have listened to your father. I should have blocked Errol's number the second he texted." "He texted you?" Griffin's head snapped up. "When?" "Last night, after I got home, thanking me for being kind to him." Justine wrapped her hands around the warm coffee mug. "I blocked him immediately and deleted it, but apparently that wasn't enough to stop him from using me." Vivian was typing rapidly. "I'm going to tweet a clarification. Something like, 'My mom was practicing basic human decency at a party.' That doesn't mean she endorses or supports Errol's past actions. Stop trying to create drama where there isn't any." "Don't," Justine said. "You've already defended me once. I don't want you getting more involved." "Mom, I'm already involved. We all are. We're Musks. Everything we do gets scrutinized." Vivian's purple hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her face bare of makeup but determined. "I'd rather control my own narrative than let strangers do it for me." "That's very Elon of you," Justine observed. "Yeah, well, genetics are weird like that. I hate half of what Dad stands for, but I apparently inherited his never-back-down gene." Vivian hit send on her tweet. "There. Done." Justine's phone buzzed. A text from Saxon, one of the triplets still sleeping upstairs. "Mom, are you okay? Damien and I saw the videos. Do we need to come down?" She texted back, "I'm fine. Your brothers and sister are here. Sleep in if you want. Love you." "Love you too. Dad called last night. He seemed sad more than angry." That message made Justine's chest ache. Elon sad, thinking about his father, about the wounds that never quite healed, about his ex-wife accidentally ripping them open again. The doorbell rang. All four of them froze. "Who would come here at 7:30 in the morning?" Griffin asked. "Reporters," Kai said grimly. "They've probably been camped outside for hours." Justine went to the window and peeked through the curtains. A news van was parked across the street, camera operator setting up. But at the door stood a different figure, older, familiar, carrying what looked like a bakery box. "It's your grandmother," Justine said. "My mother." She opened the door to find Jennifer Wilson, 71 years old, silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour, wearing a cardigan and jeans and an expression of maternal concern. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I saw the news," Jennifer said, pushing past Justine into the house. "Thought you might need support. And croissants. I brought croissants from that French bakery you like." Inside, Jennifer greeted her grandchildren with hugs, set the pastry box on the table, and immediately started making more coffee. It was such a mom move, showing up in crisis with food and competence, that Justine felt tears threat. "Okay," Jennifer said once everyone had coffee and pastries. "Tell me everything. The real version, not what the internet says." So Justine did. She explained the party, the encounter with Errol, her rudeness, her apology, the confrontation inside. Her mother listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of understanding. When Justine finished, Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then, "You were right to apologize." "Mom, I'm not saying you handled everything perfectly. Making a scene at the party was probably not ideal, but apologizing for being cruel, that was the right thing to do." Jennifer looked at her grandchildren. "I raised Justine to own her mistakes. She's teaching you the same thing. That's good parenting." "But Errol's using it against us," Vivian protested. "He's making himself look like the victim." "Of course he is," Jennifer said pragmatically. "People who have made terrible choices often do that. It's easier than actually confronting what they've done. But that's his problem, not Justine's. Your mother can't control how he behaves. She can only control her own actions." "Elon's angry," Justine said, "and I don't blame him. I opened old wounds." "Elon's been angry before," Jennifer said dryly. "He'll survive. And honestly, maybe those wounds needed opening. Not by you necessarily, but sometimes pain that's been buried comes out sideways. Better to face it than pretend it doesn't exist." Griffin's phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression changed. Mom, you need to see this." He turned his laptop around. A new article from Bloomberg. "Elon Musk addresses father in rare interview. Some family relationships are beyond repair." They all crowded around to read. In a surprise phone interview with Bloomberg this morning, Elon Musk addressed the viral incident involving his ex-wife and his estranged father. "Justine is a good person who tried to do what she thought was right," Musk said. "I don't agree with her approach, but I understand her intentions. She sees the best in people, even when they probably don't deserve it." When asked about his relationship with his father Errol, Musk was uncharacteristically candid. "My father is a complicated man who made devastating choices. He was brilliant in many ways. He taught me to think like an engineer, to question assumptions, to never accept mediocrity. But he was also cruel. He made me feel like nothing I did would ever be good enough. And then later, he made choices that, look, some things can't be forgiven. Some relationships are beyond repair. I've made peace with that." Musk also addressed the criticism his ex-wife has faced. "People on the internet love to have opinions about situations they know nothing about. Justine raised our 5 sons largely on her own while I was building companies. She's a published author, a thoughtful person, and frankly, a better parent than I've been. If she wants to show empathy to my father, that's her choice. I just hope she doesn't get hurt by it." The kitchen was silent as they finished reading. "Dad defended you," Kai said, sounding surprised. "In public." "He basically told everyone to leave you alone," Griffin added. Vivian's eyes were wide. "And he admitted to being a bad parent. Dad never admits to being wrong about anything." Jennifer smiled knowingly. "Elon Musk may be many things, but he's not stupid. He knows when to cut his losses and protect the people he cares about." Justine's phone buzzed. A text from Elon. "Gave an interview, should help. Don't thank me, I did it for the boys, not you. But also maybe a little for you. You were trying to be kind, that's not a crime." She typed back, "Thank you for understanding even when you're angry. Still angry, but also aware that you're dealing with enough without me piling on. Talk later. Make sure the boys are okay." "I will. They're amazing, by the way, all of them. We did something right." "You did something right. I just showed up occasionally and gave them weird names." Despite everything, Justine smiled. This was the Elon she'd fallen in love with, the one who could be self-aware and funny and vulnerable when he let his guard down. It didn't happen often, but when it did, it reminded her why she'd once thought they could make it work. Her mother was watching her with knowing eyes. "He's a good man buried under a lot of ambition and trauma." "He's a complicated man," Justine corrected. "Good and bad and everything in between." "Like his father," Jennifer observed. Like all of us, really. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of activity. Marina called with updates on media requests, all of which Justine declined. Gregory Palmer's assistant reached out to apologize for the uncomfortable situation and confirmed that the book adaptation was still on track. Several friends texted their support. A few colleagues from the publishing world sent messages ranging from concerned to judgmental. By noon, the news cycle had shifted. A celebrity couple announced their divorce. A politician made controversial comments. The internet's attention, fickle as always, began to move on. Saxon and Damien finally emerged from their rooms around 1 p.m., immediately hugging their mother. "Are we still a normal family?" Damien asked, his 15-year-old earnestness breaking Justine's heart. "We were never a normal family," Saxon said pragmatically. "Our dad is Elon Musk and our mom was on TMZ this morning. Normal was never in the cards." "But we're okay," Justine assured them. "This will blow over, everything always does." "Except trauma," Vivian muttered. "Trauma sticks around." "Therapy helps with that," Jennifer said cheerfully. "Speaking of which, Justine, when's your next appointment with Dr. Morrison?" "Tomorrow, actually. Perfect timing." By late afternoon, Justine felt brave enough to check social media properly. The responses to Elon's interview had been largely positive. People respected him for defending his ex-wife while maintaining boundaries with his father. Vivian's clarifying tweets had been retweeted thousands of times. Even Justine's own statement, the carefully crafted PR language from Elon's team, had been received well. The narrative was shifting from Justine defends problematic father-in-law to Justine caught in complicated family situation. Everyone moves on. It wasn't perfect. There were still think pieces about empathy versus accountability, still debates about whether Errol deserved any kindness given his past actions. But the fever pitch had broken. Around 5 p.m., Justine's phone rang with a number she didn't recognize, different from Errol's blocked one. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Justine Musk," a woman's voice, young, nervous. "Speaking. Who is this?" "My name is Jana Bezwidenhout. I'm Errol's." She struggled with the words. "I'm the woman he had children with. I saw the videos from last night. I wanted to call and say, thank you." Justine's world tilted. "Thank you. For treating him like a human being, for seeing that he's more than the worst thing he's done." Jana's accent was South African, her voice thick with emotion. "Everyone looks at us like we're monsters, and I get it, what we did was wrong on so many levels. But he's a good father to our children. He's trying to be better than he was with Elon and Kimball. And last night you gave him something he hasn't had in years, basic dignity." Justine didn't know what to say. This was Errol's stepdaughter, the woman at the center of the scandal that had destroyed what little family relationship Errol had left. She was also a human being, complicated, flawed, making choices Justine couldn't understand but also couldn't judge from the outside. "I wasn't trying to excuse what happened between you two," Justine said carefully. "I was just apologizing for my own behavior." "I know, that's what made it meaningful." Jana paused. "Errol gave those interviews this morning against my advice. I told him it would make things worse, that he should just let it go, but he couldn't help himself. He wanted people to know that anyone had been kind to him. I'm sorry if that caused problems for you." "It's not your fault. Isn't it? Everything about this situation is someone's fault. Errol's fault for his choices. My fault for going along with them. Elon's fault for cutting him off so completely." She stopped. "No, that's not fair. Elon has every right to protect himself. It's all such a mess." "Yes," Justine agreed. "It really is. I should let you go. I just wanted you to know that what you did mattered, to him but also to me. It's been so long since anyone treated us like we deserved basic humanity. You didn't have to do that, but you did. So, thank you." After hanging up, Justine sat in her office staring at the wall. The situation was even more complicated than she'd realized. Jana, young, struggling with her own choices, raising children with a man who'd once helped raise her. Errol, a father trying to be better with his younger children while his older children refused contact. Elon, protecting his own children while carrying wounds that might never fully heal. And Justine, caught in the middle of it all because she'd apologized to an old man at a party. Her mother appeared in the doorway. "You okay, sweetheart?" That was Jana, Errol's partner, mother of his two youngest children. Jennifer's eyebrows rose. That took courage calling you. Or desperation. Justine rubbed her face. Everyone in this situation is so broken, Mom. Everyone's hurt and hurting each other and trying to survive the best they can. And I walked into the middle of it thinking I could fix something by apologizing for being rude. You can't fix other people's families, Jennifer said gently. You can barely fix your own. All you can do is try to be a good person and hope it's enough. Is it enough? Sometimes, sometimes not, but it's all any of us have. Jennifer sat down in the chair across from Justine's desk. You did the right thing last night, even though it made everything messy. You apologized for cruelty. You stood up for basic human dignity. Those are good values. The fact that Errol used it for his own purposes doesn't make your initial choice wrong. Elon thinks I was naive. You probably were, but naive isn't the same as wrong. And Elon's so busy protecting himself from being hurt that sometimes he forgets kindness is also important. They sat together in comfortable silence, mother and daughter, both women who'd loved complicated men and survived the aftermath. Outside, the Los Angeles sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside, Justine's house was full of her children, all 5 of them home for spring break, arguing about dinner options, laughing at inside jokes, being the family she'd fought so hard to create after her divorce. I think I'm going to take a break from fancy parties, Justine said. Jennifer laughed. That's probably wise. And maybe from dating anyone whose family situation is complicated. Good luck with that. Everyone over 40 has a complicated family situation. Then maybe I'll just focus on my writing and my kids. Now you're talking sense. Jennifer stood, kissing the top of Justine's head. Come on. Your children are debating pizza versus Thai food, and they need an adult to make an executive decision. I vote Thai, Justine said, standing and following her mother out of the office. In the living room, her 5 children were indeed arguing about dinner, phones out, showing each other menus and reviews. They were beautiful, all of them, tall and smart and funny and resilient. Griffin with Elon's intensity but more empathy. Vivian with her fierce independence and courage. Kai with his quiet brilliance. Saxon and Damien with their dry humor and mathematical minds. She'd made mistakes with all of them, been too absent sometimes, too controlling others, too wrapped up in her own pain to always see theirs. But they turned out remarkable anyway, these children of divorce, these kids with a famous father and an infamous grandfather. And maybe that was enough. Maybe trying your best and apologizing when you failed and loving fiercely even when it was messy. Maybe that was all parenting really was. Thai food, Justine announced, with extra spring rolls. And we're eating together at the table, no phones, just family. Mom, we're not 12, Saxon protested. Don't care, family dinner. Tonight we pretend we're normal people having a normal meal. We're Musks, Damien said. Normal was never an option. Then we'll be weird together, Justine said, but we'll be together. And for that evening at least they were. 6 people around a table, eating Thai food, telling stories, laughing at dumb jokes, being a family that had survived scandal and grief and public scrutiny. Being imperfect people loving each other imperfectly. Which was, Justine realized, the only kind of family that really existed anyway. Later that night, after her mother had gone home and her children had retreated to their rooms, Justine sat on her back patio looking at the Los Angeles lights. Her phone buzzed one last time. A text from Elon. The boys told me about family dinner. Good call. They needed that. You're a good mom, Jay. Whatever else is complicated, that's true. She typed back. You're a good dad too, E, in your own weird, sporadic, brilliant way. Our kids know you love them. Even Vivian. Especially Vivian. She hates what you stand for, but she inherited your fire. That counts for something. Maybe, look about my father. We don't have to talk about it. No, we do. I've been thinking about what you said, about him being lonely, about everyone deserving basic dignity. And you're right. I don't have to have a relationship with him, but I also don't have to wish him pain. Those can both be true. That's very mature of you. Don't get used to it. Tomorrow I'll go back to being emotionally stunted. Looking forward to it. Good night, Justine. Thank you for caring about our boys, and for trying to be a good person even when it's complicated. Good night, Elon. Thank you for understanding. Justine set down her phone and looked up at the stars, barely visible through LA's light pollution but still there, still burning millions of miles away. Somewhere out there, Elon was probably working, building rockets that would reach those stars, pursuing dreams that seemed impossible to everyone except him. Somewhere else, Errol was probably sitting alone, carrying regrets too heavy to ever fully put down. And here in her house in the Hollywood Hills, Justine was simply existing, trying to write stories, raise children, and be kind in a world that often punished kindness. Tomorrow the internet would find something new to be outraged about. Tomorrow her sons would go back to their lives, carrying the Musk name with varying degrees of pride and resentment. Tomorrow she'd wake up and try again to be the person she wanted to be. But tonight she was okay. Imperfect, complicated, still making mistakes, but okay. And really, what more could anyone ask for? That was the end of this emotional journey. We hope it touched your heart and reminded you of the power of empathy and second chances. We're curious. Where are you listening from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. We love hearing from our global community. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for many more thought-provoking tales like this one. Your support means everything to us and helps us continue creating meaningful content. And here's a request: share this video with your friends and family. Sometimes a powerful narrative is exactly what someone needs to hear. Help us spread kindness and awareness, one share at a time. Thank you for being here. Until next time, remember, everyone has a story worth understanding.